Hello, everyone. This is Dookie Royale, and we got Eon K. Grissom here talking about. Today, we're going to talk about the biggest, most greatest ape animal that ever has lived: Bigfoot,
Bigfoot.
Sasquatch.
And we're not
Skunk
talking about the monster
ape.
truck.
No, not the monster truck.
No.
Although we could if you want to. I love that monster.
I'm assuming the monster truck was named after the animal.
Sure. I mean,
I don't want to call him.
why would you name a big truck Bigfoot? Like you don't have big feet. You have big tires. You should be named Big Tire.
He should. You're correct. Maybe because he had a big carbon footprint.
Save the Bigfoots. Yeah.
Yeah, he lays Bigfoots. Okay, so what do we got? Bigfoot. This is a topic that's probably not a mystery to most people. It's pretty common. Everybody knows about Bigfoot. I'm sure we all saw Harry and the Hendersons when we were in the late 80s.
I wonder if that's on Netflix. I'd like to watch that again.
I have the movie. I downloaded it a while back. I never bothered watching it, but
Did it have a movie?
I started watching it because I was like, oh, I like it. And then I realized, oh, this is like a kid movie. And I didn't finish it.
I'll have my kids watch it if it's on.
Oh, yeah, man. John Lithgow's classic.
Yeah, that's funny shit.
So, what are we doing,
yeah.
Dookie Royale? You got the layout here. We're boring our audience already, which is how we do it.
Let's start off with we'll take a poll between me and you. Is Bigfoot real?
Well, if I say yes and you say no, who's going to break the tie? So I like to think I would. Okay, so there's what I would like to believe is true and what is possibly true, which I don't know what the truth is. So I'm not going to say what is or isn't true. I would say I'd like to believe that Bigfoot is real. I would say that there's a possibility Bigfoot is real. There is no, I guess, quote unquote, scientific evidence to support that theory.
So we can say
dead bodies or bones.
Right. No, there's not. And neither of us have seen a Bigfoot, right?
Correct.
We haven't laid our eyes on one, so we can't say it's real or not.
Also known as the Sasquatch.
The Sasquatchian.
I like that name. That's like by the Indians called it that, I believe.
Every time I hear Saskatoon, I think of Sasquatch.
Saskatoon, eh?
It's like in Canada.
Or Saskatchewan.
It's funny how little I know about Canada. But that's probably where you're going to find some Bigfoots, though, in the springtime and summer.
Absolutely.
Like Canada. Because nobody goes there, so they could just wander.
But ironically, the Bigfoot sightings, I mean, they're everywhere. If you look at a map, I mean, they're happening in our backyard, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
No matter where you live. And we're not going to tell people where we live because then they'll stalk us.
They already know. We've mentioned it a few times. We're in Georgia.
We're in Georgia. Oh, man, you gave it away.
We're in the ATL.
Atlanta area.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama. I went and looked at what's the website for Bigfoot? Let's go and Google that real quick.
Bigfootsightings.com?
I think so. I think it is something like that.
I bet it is.
Let's see here. Bigfoot sightings.
So now Bigfoot's not quite the same as the Yeti, even though it's often it's very similar. The Yeti is Asian in the Himalayan areas of Nepal and Tibet. More of a snowy area. Very similar, though. Also known as the abominable snowman, the Yeti is.
So it's the BFRO.net, which is Bigfoot Research Organization.net.
Okay.
They have a map that shows all of the listed sightings. And in Georgia, and just this year, 125.
Wow.
And that's from 1/2015 to 4/2015. Florida, 302. Let's see where we got. What do you think the most is?
The state, the United. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm going to think Portland or Washington.
Washington.
Yeah, Pacific Northwest is where all the sightings are usually.
Yeah,
or at least legitimate sightings, I guess.
So we have Oregon coming in at 241. You'd think Oregon would have a lot, right?
Yes.
But Here at Washington, 597.
Wow. And I bet if you went up into Canada, what is that, British Columbia, you'd find even more.
Oh yeah, I bet. Let's see, Canadian. We have Canadian. British Columbia, 130.
That's it?
Yeah. So
Bunch of
Washington,
haters.
by far the biggest, squatchiest place.
Sasquatchian.
Squatchy. So what are some reasons that we should believe in Bigfoot then? If we don't believe in Bigfoot, if we're skeptics out there and we're like, what's a good case? What's a good case for there even being a Bigfoot?
Well,
What
I
can we
mean,
say?
you could say that it's some kind of offshoot of, the evolutionary sequence. That there's also the aquatic ape theory, which is another discussion.
Yeah.
But that, along the way, you had obviously primates, what do they call it? The common ancestor, split off into Homo sapien. Was it a Homo erectus?
Yes.
All those offshoots. And then some of them became gorillas and chimpanzees and orangutans. And then I guess Bigfoot's, he's kind of like in the middle. And it's not a he, of course. There has to be women to procreate. But Bigfoot would be kind of in the middle. He's I'm just going to call it he because that seems to be what my brain's doing. Bigfoot seems to be kind of in the middle. He seems to be kind of more conscious. Well, I'm not saying apes aren't conscious, but he's kind of more human. Like when you look at him, he walks upright for one thing. Seems to be a little more I can't think of the word, but he's kind of more interactive. I mean, apes are interactive. He's not much different than an ape. He's not known to speak English or anything or any language. I know he's known for throwing rocks at people. Right. People are out there camping and they hear weird noises and they just get these huge rocks come flying at him. It's like he's trying to tell them to get away.
Well, they had that one Gigantopithecus. Do you know about this ape creature? Apparently,
I've heard of the name.
Apparently, the Gigantopithecus. If you go look at this ape-like creature up on Google with the images, you'll see that it's about a standing creature away from being a Bigfoot. It's got the hair, it's got the face everyone describes, it's got the top cone head like a gorilla. But apparently this one existed between 9 million years ago and until as recent as 100,000 years ago. The Gigantopithecus was a primate. It could have stood, if it stood straight up, it would be about 10 foot tall. That's almost exactly what people claim. They see 6 to 10 foot tall.
So that's kind of like the Loch Ness, where they say Loch Ness is this ancient species that was thought to go extinct, but unfortunately, it's actually not extinct. So it's like it kept on living and somehow was able to hide from the humans.
Yeah, because it's a cave dweller. It only comes to the surface every once in a while, and you won't see it. It's a dinosaur, and it feeds on rocks in the bottom of the ocean or something. I don't know what it feeds on, but.
So I'm reading here that Bigfoot is thought to be an ape. Of course, I mean, we are too, so I guess that's not saying much.
Yeah, and lots and lots of people have seen a Bigfoot. I mean, there's like no ending in the people that have seen a Bigfoot.
Oh yeah,
and like if someone saw 500 dogs, would we say that dogs don't exist?
No.
Still? I mean, there's thousands of people, according to BFRO. They don't even have a total. They don't even have a total on here, but I mean, it's in 4 months, it's like 6,000. It looks like.
Yeah, and Bigfoot's thought to be mostly nocturnal, so that's another reason. Comes out at night.
Yeah.
Now, I guess a lot of the excitement started in 1967 with the Patterson-Gimlin film, which I'm sure our listeners have seen if they have any interest in Bigfoot whatsoever. That's that video of Bigfoot or the Sasquatch walking in that kind of rocky forest terrain, not running or anything, just walking briskly, kind of stops and turns, looks at the cameraman, and then just keeps going.
It's like a rock bed in a stream or a river.
Yes.
And yeah, if you see any Bigfoot show like In Search Of, you remember that show in like the 90s or 2000s in search of, like if you see any of these just generic shows on the TV, you're going to see that Patterson-Gimlin film, and it's the most famous one. And I think it actually would, if more relatively big time experts would look at it, they could prove that it was a real.
Well, I've seen it. I've seen so-called experts analyze it, and they say that it can't be a man in a suit because of the way the movement is. I guess you call it the gait, the way that it walks.
The knees, the knee angles, and
just the whole thing, the way the torso and the shoulders are up high, the way it swings. It can't be. They say it can't be mimicked by a human, even with a suit on.
Right.
Now I don't know anything about the person, this Patterson-Gimlin person that filmed this, and now it was a film. I mean, 1967, so it's blurry. There's obviously the joke that Bigfoot is actually blurry. That's why you never get a clear view of him, because he's literally a blurry being moving about the woods. I've even heard that. I think the Native Americans believe that big Sasquatches had the ability to become invisible. Like they're mystical. They're almost like up there with angels and fairies. They come from another realm. Maybe they shift in and out of the dimension is a theory I've heard.
I've heard at least 3 stories where people said that Bigfoot dematerialized in front of their eyes when they saw him. But again, those are just stories and they're sightings people report.
Yep.
There's also one where Bigfoot walked into the woods and there were aliens like Greys waiting for it when it came into the woods, and they all walked off together.
Oh yeah,
that was a weird story. Yeah,
I've heard similar stories. Bigfoot, with the UFO sightings and Bigfoot sightings in the same area at the same time.
Right, UFO, yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
Those are hard to wrap your head around. And mainly, I think those are stories that kind of come from, you can't really prove, so I'm just going to say and see what happens. And they'll never be proven. They're just stories. So take that however you like to.
Oh, so apparently Patterson and Gimlin are 2 separate people. I was thinking it was a person with a hyphenated last name.
Oh, the thing with their story is too that they deliberately went out to film a Bigfoot. They were just like, oh, we're gonna go find this thing, and they get out there, and within a short amount of time, there's one there, and like people laugh at that because some people spend. I was listening to a Bigfoot podcast not long ago, and this guy had spent like 7 years, day in and day out, like forever trying to get a Bigfoot.
Oh yeah.
And all he would get was like a howl, after like 2 years, and then a wood knock after a little while.
And he would find their feces and stuff.
Right, you'd get a footprint every once in a while. But 7 years. I mean, this guy was out in Washington.
Now, one thing interesting, I think I might have seen that. Well, I've seen that guy or someone just like him. One of the arguments I found kind of compelling was he got this one footprint. It was like under a fern way out in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't like off a trail. It wasn't out in the open. If you're going to create a hoax, you're going to put them out in the open in a highly traveled area. I mean, this guy was just like miles away from the paths, and it was under a fern. So, and I don't know how he found it, but he did. So that's kind of interesting to me. I mean, it doesn't prove anything, of course, but it's definitely interesting. Like, obviously, no one's going to do a hoax like that. That's just crazy.
And now, like on the TV shows that you watch, TV shows that you watch, and these people are like, "No, I've seen a Bigfoot," and that's why they go hunting for the Bigfoots and not hunting, but trying to get more sightings. You want to believe them. I mean, it's like they saw a Bigfoot. And who are you to say that they didn't see it?
Oh, absolutely.
And they come out with such conviction. The only reason, they dropped everything that they've done their entire life to go search for Bigfoot because they saw one and they saw it up close, within like a few feet or 20 feet or 30 feet or whatever. And they know it was a Bigfoot. And they know he's out there. It's kind of like ghost hunters. You have a ghost experience. You're going to want to try to figure out what the heck's going on.
Absolutely.
crop circles, all that good stuff.
And ghost experiences are really tough because it's, I mean, obviously with Bigfoot, if Bigfoot is real, there is some potential way to get some actual physical evidence. Ghosts are totally different. I mean, how are you gonna, you can catch something on video, I guess, but there's no like tangible evidence.
Yeah, the video evidence would have been really good for like 50s and 60s, but once they started video editing in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I mean, it was all over at that point because you can just fake that stuff pretty easily. It's kind of like the UFO saucer thing, where it was like super big for a little while because people could like really make saucers out of tin cans and then photograph them. And lately, you just don't hear about saucers anymore, do you?
No, I mean, of course we know it's because the government is suppressing.
Well, now they're more complex. Now they're in motherships near the sun. Now they're much more complex things.
And hiding out in the hollow moon.
Yeah, and Earth, and they just materialize into the Earth. Apparently, you know, the USOs.
They just merge in.
Yeah,
so what do you say? You got a list there? You got some kind of list for us, right?
So we did the Patterson-Gimlin. We sort of talked about that, but there's some other things. I mean, the Patterson-Gimlin film, it shows like the natural breasts. And if you look at enhanced versions of the Patterson-Gimlin, you can see literally like the left breast like jiggle. It's kind of weird. Who would think to put that on a suit? You know, I wouldn't have thought, oh, let's make this a girl with boobs and go, you know, and the next,
you're right.
In that same piece of footage, you'll see that the leg muscles flex as it walks across on the rocks. Also, the rocks are pretty rough terrain, and this animal walks across them like he's walking on a sheet of glass. So smooth, straight. Head doesn't bob, shoulders don't go up and down. Torso doesn't turn like we would. But the whole thing that people think that it's a hoax is because, you know, they went out there to film it. They went out to film it first try, and there it was. There's also some guys that live in the area. 3 guys that just came out and said, "Oh, we did that. We were in the suit, and we walked out in front of them." And and made everyone believe that there was a Bigfoot out there, and they came out. I don't even know how much time later. So there's a lot of questions around the Patterson-Gimlin film, but it is the most researched and written about video in the Bigfoot community.
Have you seen this one where if you Google search the Patterson footage, I think sometimes it's just called the Patterson footage, but they stabilized it. So they take Bigfoot because it's all shaky.
Yeah. That's right.
But they take it and they just keep Bigfoot in the smooth frame, and it's a lot better to watch. It kind of reminds me of the JFK assassination, the Zapruder film. If you see a stabilized version of that, it's way creepier because you can see all the detail happening real smooth. I'm watching it right now. I'm watching on YouTube, stabilized in slow-mo, like zoomed in.
Yeah, and there'll be like a light enhanced version where you can get a better view of the body because the body is really dark. And if you get a light enhanced one, you can actually see the curvatures of the dark mass that it's filming. It's really good. But they know they know exactly what frame would be, like frame 256, where you can see the booby jiggle and all this stuff.
Now I have some. Now wait, I told you that I want to believe in Bigfoot. I don't really ever believe in anything 100% because, you know, to me, all of reality is essentially a dream anyway. So therefore, if nothing is real, of course, nothing can be real. But what about you? You didn't put in your vote.
Oh, so I think Bigfoot is real.
Is real.
I think it's real, but
freaking real, man.
I do need to see it.
Got to see to believe it.
To confirm that.
The closest evidence I have not seen it myself. And Bigfoot, of course, Sasquatch is North American primarily, but the Yeti, also known as the Abominable Snowman, I know my wife's cousin, who is not the type to be getting carried away with conspiracy theories or pseudoscience, if you will. He's a very rational guy with a corporate job. He's real big into climbing big mountains, such as Everest and K2, and one of these really extreme outdoorsy kind of guys.
Nice.
And doesn't do any drugs except maybe a little beer. He's not out there tripping in the woods, but he knows a bunch of people. He's part of that community, this rock climbing community, and these guys are all real serious, real rational guys. And one of the guys he was talking to, said, dude, like, yeah, we were out there in the Himalayas and had been out there for multiple days, and they were literally in the middle of freaking nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't see people for like a week at a time.
Yeah, and they saw a freaking Yeti, like just walking by, like clear as day. Like multiple people saw it. They all agreed. They couldn't believe it. It just blew their mind that this. And so they're like, dude, it's just real. Like, I don't know why there's no evidence. It doesn't make any sense because this thing's totally real. I totally saw it. So based on that, there's got to be some reason why the evidence doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I guess.
You just can't pull your camera up fast enough to get it as it walks by. Maybe that's the reality of the situation.
It's weird. I mean, to me, okay, so, some things I find reality to be fairly mystical in a sense. And when I say I don't think reality is real, I don't want our listeners to misunderstand me. I wouldn't say it's not real. I would say it's maybe not as it presents itself. So I think there's certain things that if you don't believe in, you're not allowed to see. You're not allowed to perceive. This explains a lot of, I guess, religions and stuff. People, when they believe in it, it's like they're allowed to see it. Or maybe they create it in their mind or something. But, this story I'm telling you, this account, these guys didn't believe in the Yeti. They totally didn't believe it, but they saw it. So, I guess somehow they were allowed to see it. That's just a weird theory of mine on, the aspects of
maybe reality. It's a jungle ghost, some kind of jungle ghost or something.
Jungle ghost.
But anyway, the Himalayas, holy cow. There's there's pockets of people that live there that they still don't know what's going on in the world. It's
a vast wasteland.
It's a huge mountain range. Yeah.
There's also these, I've heard this other far out stories. This is totally off the Bigfoot topic, but these humans who are real tuned in, I guess they're like yogis or whatever. They're real tuned into the spiritual nature of reality, and they've almost risen to like a higher plane of consciousness. And they're rumored to live out there in the caves of the Himalayas. And they're basically like hundreds of years old, and they can perform miracles. They can walk on water. They can levitate. They can communicate with their mind. I've heard teachings of these. I think some call them the ascended masters, but they're out there too. So the Himalayas is a real interesting mythical type landscape. Of course, the Dalai Lama comes from that region. He's not allowed to go back right now, but
no, he's kicked out of Tibet.
He's totally kicked out. He's a refugee, and I guess the Chinese government is in control of that region. So maybe the Chinese government is suppressing the Yeti.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know, right? Well, there's some people that say that they've seen a Bigfoot that's all white. They've also seen them as all tan and black and brown and
orange.
So orange, just like my hair.
Orange.
They're all different colors.
Sure.
So, they could just be mistaken a Yeti or a abominable snowman, a white one, as just a Bigfoot.
I've seen some Italian guys that could pass for Sasquatch, man.
No, they're like Eastern European.
Oh man, some of those. I've seen some
Eastern Europeans.
Yeah, I've seen some hairy dudes. Hopefully not women. That would be unfortunate. Now, there's also the aquatic ape, which I mentioned earlier. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, that's that we're half ape, half water being, right?
Right, and it's thought to be earlier on there was an aquatic ape that I guess had. It's like life is believed by evolutionists, and I hate that term evolutionists. I mean, it's like that's not really a thing, but it's believed that life came out of the ocean, and then at some point, fish came out, started growing legs and walking around, and at some point, some of them went back into the ocean
Right.
and kind of adapted, I guess, gills, and then they further evolved into more humanoid type beings, which are merfolk. So this theory or this rumor of mer people living under the ocean, their earlier ancestors being aquatic apes. It's just a theory
Yeah, but like
I've come across.
the subcutaneous. No, it's a good theory too because I mean it makes you wonder. Even though when you're not a scientist, it makes you wonder. I bet uh, scientists will probably go, "Oh, there's like 45 different reasons why that's bullshit." But
Well, scientists are always very skeptical. I mean, that's their job is to
yeah,
try to disprove everything. That's essentially the scientific method, right? You try to disprove it until it is clear that you can't.
well, so what is it? I think some of the ideas are that we have subcutaneous fat, which is fat under the skin, which apes do not have,
Hey,
gorillas don't
speak for
have.
yourself, man.
Yeah, you don't have very much, do you?
I got more than ever.
Yeah, so it's fat under the skin. It comes out like we collect fat, which is something that doesn't happen in marine animals with the exception of a couple, or only happens in marine animals. Yeah, that's what it was. It only happens in marine animals like walruses and whales. But it doesn't happen in land animals.
Okay.
So we're the only one. So either we lived on the beach, or we're just now coming out of the ocean. But then again, that would kind of explain that. Oh, and that's another point. That would explain why we only have fossilized records back to 10 to 14,000 years, or maybe even to 18,000 years, because we hit a point where we changed into humans and are now on land, and all the water versions of ourselves died off.
Now, that's, of course, if you don't believe in creationism.
Correct. 6,000 years.
Which is where, yeah, well, yeah, that would be young Earth creationism. But for our listeners who aren't familiar with creationism, that would be the idea that God made everything in 7 days. No, sorry, 6 days.
Yep. And on the seventh, he rested.
Seventh day, he didn't do anything. Yeah, but that would of course teach that nothing evolved and everything was made like just straight up from scratch, and humans lived alongside apes, and Eve was made out of Adam's rib, which
it's kind of weird, right?
I'm a big fan of the story. I think it's far out. I like it. There's probably aliens. Got to be aliens integrated.
But of all the things to make someone out of, why the rib? Why not like the jawbone or the pineal gland would have been nice. That'd have been cool.
Yeah. Well, it kind of implies some kind of DNA, petri dish cloning type of thing.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure our listeners are familiar with ancient aliens.
On History Channel tonight.
Yes, ancient alien theorists believe that the gods came from the heavens and cloned. Actually, that's the cool theory, is that there were apes on the planet, no humans, and the aliens crossbred their DNA with the apes and created these strange, bald, ape-like creatures with the mind of kind of a hybrid extraterrestrial mind, which is, of course, humans.
Our spiritual mind.
Yes, our third eye potential. Mm-hmm. And we were created to mine gold for the extraterrestrials.
Oh yeah.
And we sure do love gold.
I don't know about that, man, because if they had the technology, they could just tell us where all the gold was, and we'd just go get it all.
Well. Now, back in those days, maybe they didn't have the technology.
Maybe. Maybe not. They can travel from world to world and plant us here and DNA us and all that stuff. They can find the damn gold. You know what I'm saying, Bo?
So. They'd have some pretty good metal detectors.
Yeah. They can just materialize into the Earth.
And
All
plus,
right, so
Planet X only comes around so often.
That's another one. I haven't looked into that very much, Planet X, this whole theory. That another planet's on the backside of the sun that we haven't seen yet. That we can't measure.
Sitchin.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, there could be one there nobody's ever seen. But yeah, that was sort of like some kind of dissemination given to Zechariah Ascension that there's a planet back there that controls our gravity.
Yeah, and it ties in with the Sumerian teachings.
Yeah,
of the Anunnaki. But we're totally getting off track now. So
we are, man. We're way off track. But
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot back to the giant ape, the aquatic ape theory kind of goes back to the panda and the gorilla. They were both undiscovered species until the 1800s, and the mountain gorilla wasn't even identified until 1902. So
wow,
think about that. I mean, 1902.
That's so recent.
That's wild. If you think about it, I mean, and then the panda wasn't officially discovered, I don't think, until the 40s.
What?
Yeah, it was much later because someone was in China and they saw, it's a famous explorer too, and I can't remember who it is. They saw a panda skin hanging and they thought, oh, that's pretty neat. They dyed that bear skin. Looks pretty cool. They said, no, this is a actual animal that we killed out in the woods. And so they went on a trek, and it took them like 4 years or something in the woods to find the panda.
Shows you how dense the woods are.
Yeah, nowadays they can find pandas, but they're super extinct. But and the pandas also teach us about the extremes of.
They're endangered. They're not extinct.
Right. That's what I meant. Yeah, they're endangered. But they teach you about the extremes of nature because they don't procreate like the rest of the world. They barely get off one or two every decade or two.
And they're not even bears.
Pandas. And they don't group. They don't hang together. They hang as individuals. And they eat bamboo. They don't have tribes or hunting parties or anything like that.
That panda, he's a loner.
Docile. They're just docile vegetarians, out in the woods.
The panda's a maverick.
Yeah.
But no, they're not. They're not even bears. They're closely related. They're closer related to the raccoon.
Yeah, so that's right. Yeah.
Weird.
So the thing that it's scientifically unprovable is kind of a farce anyway. Because if there was something as smart as humans out there that just looked like an ape, had their own language, which is what people think. You can hear some vocalizations of Bigfoot on some recordings. They have their own language. They could easily hide from us if they wanted to. Being seen every once in a while, by one person in their entire life. That could be entirely possible. They could hide very well.
Oh, sure. I mean, there's some species of animal that are believed to be fully extinct, but then they find out, sure enough, that they weren't actually extinct. They were just, they were super endangered, of course. Now I'm reading here that he's actually is a bear. I don't know what I'm thinking. A bear.
Okay.
I don't know what I'm thinking.
It does look like a raccoon, though.
No, I mean, I swear I remember hearing. That's what you got to watch out for, hearsay, man.
Might be one of those Facebook posts that you scrolled past.
Yeah. Well, it just shows you that if you hear something, it may not be true, but if you read it on the internet, it verifies that it's 100% true.
Yeah, that's your.
I'm reading it right here on the internet. I mean, it says
that's our
bear.
Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, or Funk and Wagnalls. I was always more of a Funk and Wagnall kind of guy. I like that funk.
Yeah.
What am I thinking though, man? I know the koala is not a bear. Maybe I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
Sorry, listeners.
So yeah, so that's another reason that some of our listeners can't believe in Bigfoot, that he's still out there because hey, those other two things took up very and they're common now. I mean, we see them in every zoo, right? So
Oh, they've got some enslaved down there in the Atlanta Zoo.
yeah, it definitely enslaved animals, that's for sure. We talked about Patterson Gimlin. So hair samples.
Yes.
We've had many hair
There
sample
have been,
in our
yes,
day.
there have been hair samples, yes.
And in fact, there's researchers out there that already have books describing different types of Bigfoot hair samples. But when they take them for DNA, there's a lot of different excuses. Where it's a human hair. It looks exactly like a human hair, but you can't DNA test hair most of the time because you need the root. And it looks like most of the time, whenever hair samples are put in, they're not roots; they're just tufts of hair that probably were on the Bigfoot body for a long time, matted down, and then it comes off on things
I bet his hair is
over
terribly
fences.
matted.
Oh yeah, those. Well, I mean, there's Bigfoots are supposedly super smelly. Stank.
Yeah, I've heard that. They just reek.
You got that funk for like 40 feet away.
Super BO. I mean, they,
I heard
they're
once.
not, they probably don't shower.
I heard a story where a guy was like walking down the. Oh, and he actually showed the investigators like exactly where it was. But he walked around this hill, and he started to smell Bigfoot, and then he could hear these dogs barking, and it took about 2 or 3 minutes, but the Bigfoot walked right by him on the same trail, and followed by like 10 dogs just barking and yelping and yelling at it as it walked through the woods, like wild dogs, thinking it had food or something, like hid under its coat, or I don't know. But you know what? I meant something I didn't say about the dematerialization of Bigfoot is that I've heard a lot of accounts where Bigfoot has like recently killed a deer and like left its insides or something chilling out in the field or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about the logistics of a Bigfoot killing a deer and how unbelievably hard that would be for a Bigfoot to do, unless it could hide really well behind a tree, as a Bigfoot comes around.
I guess it throws a rock at it or grabs a hold of it and breaks its neck or something. I mean, obviously Bigfoot's very powerful.
Like, how do you grab hold of a damn deer? I can't. If I look at a deer, they take off.
Bigfoot's said to be upwards of 500 pounds. I guess somehow, well, but I mean, if you can, like you said, if you can materialize, then that's easy. You're just invisible and you walk up and you just materialize and break its neck.
But then again, if you can materialize, what the hell do you need to eat a deer for? Like, you can just materialize your food and eat it. Maybe that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I don't know. It does state that Bigfoot is thought to be omnivorous, so that falls in line with the theory here.
Yeah, one I was reading a story before we had this podcast, and the guy said that some guy said that he found a Bigfoot carcass once while he was out, and it was like they ate ants mostly. I thought that was kind of weird.
That's a lot of ants, man.
Yeah. And it was it had just died, and he was cutting it up. He had cut it apart, and it had ants. He was like partially digested ants.
Anteaters aren't that. I guess anteaters probably eat things other than ants, but they eat bugs, and they're pretty decent size. So that totally proves Bigfoot right there.
You know what?
That's
you know what?
We just proved Bigfoot.
You know what proves Bigfoot in a lot of people's eyes is the footprints, the casts.
Well, of course,
that people take.
Yeah, and there's some people that have many samples they've taken. I mean, some of them are a foot and a half long. They have baby prints as well, child Bigfoots. And
footprints are kind of confusing because if you look at like a whole bunch of footprints in a row, there's a lot of differences. There's like spread apart toes, and there's big round toes, and then there's long elongated human-like toes, and then there's feet that are 2 feet long and feet that are 12 inches long or 8 inches long. But if you look at a human foot and all the different variations of a human there are, our feet are all pretty much the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it might go from a woman's foot to a man's foot difference, but we're almost all the same. We're within an inch or two, except for people like Shaquille O'Neal and those basketball players.
Woo, he's got some big old feet.
But the Bigfoot feet, a wide range of different stuff. But some of the most convincing Bigfoot casts I've ever seen on TV shows are whenever you get like the skin indentures in the casts, like when they step into the ground, like it's so detailed in HD, like cast that
Yep.
they can see the skin and they can get like prints off of it.
Yep.
Then if they were ever from the body, they could match those prints to the cast. And I mean, you can't fake that kind of stuff either. You know, I don't know how you could.
Yeah. Now there have definitely been some. There have been some actual hoaxes
that have done. Oh yeah, for the footprints, yeah, because you can find a lot of that stuff online. Like people build boards, like flattened boards, but they can't. You know those ones like in the snow that are, say, 9 feet apart. You know, like from one footprint to the next, in the snow. No, and they just go out into the woods. You can't really fake that.
right? Because yeah, exactly. Unless you're on some kind of hovercraft or something.
Yeah. You know, there's footprints on the beach that are 9 foot apart and the water's coming up to it and there's nobody in sight.
Yeah, prove that, science.
Or anti-Bigfooters.
Yeah, that's right. A bunch of haters.
I mean, that's where he got his name from, these big old footprints that everybody sees, you know?
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, I guess it's assumed that he's fairly well endowed as well. It'd be kind of a shame if he wasn't with the size of those feet, man. I wonder what size shoe that would be. I mean, we're talking like making Shaq feet look like baby feet. So this here says some of them are up to 2 feet long. So double the length of a human foot, yeah, and 8 inches wide. That's pretty long and skinny.
Idaho State University primatologist Jeff Meldrum, who's very famous in the Bigfoot field, who has one casting that contains dermal ridges. And that's what I was talking about. Dermal ridges, a foot's equivalent of fingerprints. They run in completely different direction than those seen on human feet. Would a hoaxer really be able to create such ridges? And even if he was, would he think of making them so different from human feet? So
yeah, I mean, that's kind of an interesting topic.
Yeah, Meldrum, he's really famous. I think it's odd that a university, like, let's see, where's he from? Idaho State University, has someone in there, you know, that hasn't been fired or shunned or anything like that, you know, kicked off the staff, and has all these footprints in his collection.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty neat. Way to go, Idaho State University.
Way to go, Idaho.
So another reason to believe in Bigfoot is just the eyewitness evidence alone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about that earlier. Just thousands and thousands, like in 4 months of this year, thousands of, and I wouldn't even. I mean, if I was just went to BFRO's website and I was sitting there looking at it, I wouldn't think, you know what, I'm going to submit a fake sighting. I mean, there probably accounts for 5 or 7%. You know, let's give it a +5 or -5%. I mean, you're still talking about, that's only 20 sightings out of 1,000. You know.
Yep.
5 out of every 100, right? So, and you know, some people even say that, you know, 75% of all the reported cases of UFOs or Bigfoots are fakes, and we know this. But 25%, they're still unaccounted for. So you got to take that in. Even if 99% of them are all fakes, I mean, what about that 1% that you can prove is real? So I would just
that's right.
keep that in mind.
It's not You can't prove it beyond the shadow of a doubt.
So let's see. Native American legends also say that in the Pacific Northwest, they have a large hairy man that in their passed down through generations.
Oh yeah, I mean I've
Uh,
seen some cool depictions on like cave drawings of Sasquatch.
yeah, sometimes they have the Native Americans had masks that they used to wear in their dances, and a lot of them would look exactly like the wild man, the hairy man.
The Native Americans also had some weird depictions that looked like extraterrestrial beings.
This is true on the walls of their caves and stuff.
Absolutely.
It's said that the teepee that the northern Native Americans use, to live in, they got from the Bigfoot. The Bigfoot made teepee structures in the woods, and they came across these
Oh, cool.
and used that model to create their teepee over time. Because it kind of shoves rain out from coming into your resting spot as it rains at night or during the day or whatever. So as you're sitting in your teepee, you want the rain to be flushed away from your house.
Yeah, that's a good. See, Bigfoot, he's quite the architect.
Yeah, and people say that these little trees that get snapped in the middle and twisted off, and this is all Bigfoot. There was a really famous piece of video that came out not long ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It was on a TV show called Finding Bigfoot. Showed these ape-like creatures in the woods, like maybe 100 feet away from these people filming, that came up on them, and they were tearing trees apart. They were like shaking the trees really hard and howling and yelping and all this stuff, and they never even saw the hunters standing there like taking their video. They were also hiding behind a tree, and it was a guy and his son. And then when they were interviewed on the show, I mean, they seemed like they were completely, what kind of father would have his son participate in a hoax like that? His son's like 6 or 7 years old, So it was a totally believable story. And then they went out to recreate it, and they stood in the exact spot and walked out to the area, and you could tell that they were much, much smaller than these beings that were shaking the trees. And the trees were just they weren't big, huge trees, but they they're, I would say, let's say, what do you think
20,
that is
30
about?
feet tall.
Yeah, 20, 30, maybe 6 inches all the way across.
Uh-huh.
And so they were just like shaking those really hard and howling. They moved to the next tree and shake those really hard. They weren't trying to pull them down, but it looked like it was some kind of animal kind of thing they were trying to get out. Maybe they were trying to attract females or something. I don't know what they were doing, but
heck yeah,
it was wild looking. That's a good video to go look up.
Bigfoot likes the ladies.
So I went out and looked at a whole bunch of Bigfoot evidence, videos at the lead up to this show, and I found that every single one of them was ridiculous. I couldn't find one that I was looking at that that I could go, that is pretty interesting. That's not a man in a suit. That's not, because it seems like these days everyone is like, as long as you get the Bigfoot, a little ways away in the woods, and it just like goes behind all these trees, so that you really can't focus in on what it is. It's too far away to see a face or a hand or a stitch. It probably even has like a U.S. Patch on its leg. So, I don't know, but they're just really bad.
Yeah, there's some terrible footage out there I've seen.
And some of it is like, there's some good stuff out there if you really look at it, but then, people research, like, we haven't talked about this yet, but let's go ahead and talk about the fakes that are out there.
Okay.
Because there was a guy named Rick Dyer, and some of the people that follow Bigfoot know Rick Dyer very well. In 2008, he he had a hoax that he had a real life Bigfoot body. News
and
conference.
it's in Georgia,
That's right.
North Georgia.
Yes, and news conferences were held. The stories appeared on websites like National Geographic.
Yeah, it
So
says here, BBC, CNN, ABC News, Fox News reported it.
Yeah. So it was a big story, and he got a lot of crap for that, deservingly, whenever they found out it was a rubber ape costume. But that wasn't all we hear from Dyer, because he faked another one in Texas. But people were pretty quick. A lot of people didn't know who Rick Dyer was. A few years later, because that story wasn't massively huge, but it was out there. And he was in San Antonio, Texas, and like in a populated area. He said he shot a Bigfoot.
This was in 2012. The other one was in 2008.
Right, first one 2008, and that one lasted a little while. He said he had DNA and stuff like that, and it was tested. But
now, first off, what's interesting is, do you see what he does for a living?
No.
He is a used car salesman.
Wow.
And he says in the 2012 account, it's hilarious. He lured Bigfoot out of the woods using pork ribs from Walmart, doused in a special barbecue sauce that he attached to the trees. So that's it, right? I mean, how can you deny that? That you can't make that up.
No, so within days, people went to the site where Rick Dyer had supposedly shot this thing, and people in the area, and then there was like an apartment complex nearby, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, they came out here all at once. They made a whole bunch of ruckus." Like the film crew, Dyer, all these people came out, made a big old ruckus, shot some fire shots off, packed up, and left. And all within like a few hours, right? And so people were just sketchy right off the bat. And I heard about that, just as soon as it happened. But then he said, he had DNA, he had the body, and he had sent it to a lab. They were going to test it, and it was going to be scientifically proven that there was a Bigfoot body. And I mean, radio show after podcast after website after video just said this is ridiculous. I mean, this guy would have come right out within a day or two with protection and said, I've got this Bigfoot, here it is, please everyone enjoy. Right? That's what he would have done if he was a real Bigfoot researcher. But when he did end up finally coming out and saying that it was a hoax, he said, something like, it's so easy to hoax people that I just had to do it again. It's fun to make people look stupid and ridiculous.
Isn't that Fox News' slogan?
Make people look stupid and ridiculous.
Yeah, they said that his 2012 thing, his hoax, was along the lines of the alien autopsy footage. Remember that?
Yeah.
Fake alien autopsy. It was supposed to be a leaked video from the government. And I got caught up in that as a kid.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was all into that, but it was so fake. I mean, you look at it now and you're like, what the heck? I mean, come on.
Like little slip mouth was open, like
yeah, it was. I mean, it was just terribly fake. But if you want to believe, you're going to believe.
Yep. Yeah, and
I want to believe.
So Dyer maintains that his ruse was all in good fun. This is what he says: everyone that went on my tour had less than $100 in the bank, with nothing going for them. Some didn't even own a car. I made their life better. I never treated anyone bad. I'm a joker. I play around, and that's just me. So, yeah, he's charging $10 admission for a look at the Bigfoot body, and he made about $60,000.
Heck, I'd pay $10. What the heck?
For a rubber body? I mean, there's a Change.org petition asking our United States Department of Justice to bring him to charges.
Oh wow, like a scammer, huh?
Yeah. Let's see. As of May 27th, 2014, it had 700 signatures. So
I'm trying to find a picture of this thing. I mean,
he's claiming this body was real, and he's selling admission tickets for it. He's kind of wrong, you know.
kind of a charlatan of sorts.
At least wax museums tell you they're wax, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's legitimate Bigfoot museums, but they're none of them claiming to actually have a real Bigfoot. They're claiming to have some kind of evidence, and they'll tell you stories, and for the most part, it's entertainment. But this guy is a totally different breed altogether. Trying to find a picture of this thing, though. Okay, here's a picture. That's stupid looking.
Like,
but I mean, I could see how people get caught up in that. Yeah,
it looks like at first when you look at it, you're like, "Oh man, that's like a dude with like hair squashed onto his face."
Yeah, I mean,
and then you look at it some more, it's like big nose. Looks like he's all bruised up, like he died. Looks like somebody might have tried to touch him up a little bit.
And this guy Dyer, I mean, he looks like he probably listens to a lot of Nickelback. So that right there, I mean, that should make you skeptical right off the bat, you know.
Yeah.
Never trust a Nickelback fan. And to our listeners, if I just offended you, good.
Yeah, so we have another theory about where. Oh, and then another thing about Bigfoot's. Another reason to believe in Bigfoot is the howls. The howls in themselves are subjects of just shows on end, because you can hear these howls. People say they hear them close, far away. They hear them all through the night. Sometimes they only last for a couple seconds. But people have also set up recorders near their campsites and heard Bigfoots talking to each other in what sounds like a human language, but it's much quicker and faster, and they're not actual words there. But people, the linguists will say it's a proven language, whatever it is.
Yep.
So
I've heard
the howls. The howls are really cool. I think those are fun to listen to. I've spent a lot of hours listening to howls, both near and far. People set up audio recorders, and it seems like some people. I don't know how you would fake. I guess you could pretty much easily fake a howl, like, because audio recordings are kind of easy to hoax if you think about it. But people that have been out in the woods for years trying to find Bigfoot, they come up with these howls. There was a good coast to coast radio show on the howls, just on Bigfoot howls.
A whole show on howls.
A whole I think it was 2 hours with questions.
Wow.
Man, I love the howls stuff. But again, I want to go out there. I have some people that I know that want to go squatching. Go out there and try to find some squatches. And even if I heard a wood knock or a howl, I'd be pretty satisfied. But then again, so many people are out there doing it right now that it could just be like another group of people trying to find Bigfoot.
I don't know. I think if we went out there, we'd have some luck. I think, because we're special,
Yeah, man.
We'd have some.
Our first time.
Now, of course, we wouldn't be able to gather any tangible evidence to prove any scientists that it's real, but we'd have our story and our experience, and we'd know.
Well, listen, all I got to do is see a spaceship, and I'm a believer, and I'm out there for the cause every day.
Yep. Show me the money.
Yep.
I heard that echo again.
I did too, just for a brief second.
Yeah, and to our listeners, sorry about the Scientology podcast with that terrible echo. I heard it in my head the whole time we were recording it, and Dookie Royale did not hear it, so we were thinking it was okay. But we thought the discussion was good enough, we just went ahead and threw it up there. So,
yeah, there wasn't any cleaning that up. I didn't find a good filter to get rid of the echo. I could find a filter to make an echo, but not really get rid of it.
Yeah, and also, I listened to the episode and I realized that the John Travolta movie was not called 3 Men and a Baby as I thought. I was an idiot. I was wrong. I'm sorry.
You
It
are
was
going
called
down.
Look Who's Talking, and then the sequel was called Look Who's Talking Now, which was ironically recorded, or that movie starred John Travolta, but as well as Kirstie Alley, another Scientologist. I wonder if that's how she got involved with Scientology, was through that movie, working with John Travolta. But it's an interesting connection. Anyway,
Yeah, no, that was a good
thought I'd add
episode.
that.
I think everybody should go listen to Scientology after you listen to this one.
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty good.
really, the information in the Scientology one is really so good. If you don't like just sit back and persevere through that echo, then you don't deserve to know.
It's so good. Or
Yeah,
if it was
that's right.
awesome.
It was so awesome. I mean, I blew my mind with that one. And I'm probably the most humble person you'll ever meet. I mean, probably the most humble on the planet. So there you go.
Yeah, man. So let's see what else we got about Bigfoot. So we have some TV shows that people can go watch, and a couple of new ones that I saw that are being filmed or about to be released. One was called "Killing Bigfoot" on Destination America, where I guess a group
No,
of
don't
people.
kill Bigfoot.
I know there's already so little of them, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it comes down to it when you read all the evidence and the videos and the howls and all that stuff. It really comes down like people aren't going to believe until it's sitting on a slab in some coroner's office, and they're picking it apart and they're getting samples and they're figuring out how this thing lived and what was its area and habitat. What was it eating when it died? I mean, the stuff's just nobody's gonna start writing encyclopedia entries on Bigfoot until that happens.
People got to see a body. They got to see it. I mean, preferably they would see it alive. And I'd feel sorry for that Bigfoot because he would have a crappy life living in a cage with a bunch of humans gawking at him, sort of like Willie B, the gorilla at the Atlanta Zoo, who lived his whole life in a cage watching TV, as people pointed and jeered at him, as I did as a child because I was, didn't know any better. But yeah, Bigfoot. I mean, obviously, like that was kind of how the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, wasn't it? Kind of a sideshow type thing. Sure. Back in the day, so because they had that like fake mermaid they were touring around with.
They had the Wolf Man. Did you ever see the Wolf Man? Yeah, he had like a genetic problem where he was all hair.
Oh yeah.
They called him a Wolf Man and dressed him up like a wolf.
Yep, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, if Bigfoot really was caught, I mean, I'm sure they would even try to kill it and do like scientific studies on it. Then you'd have your liberals out there claiming that Bigfoot's got rights and he should be a citizen or something. Bigfoot has feelings too.
It's another voter.
That's right. It's an undocumented Democrat, as they say.
So there's another one called $10 Million Bigfoot Bounty on Spike TV. So if you can get a Bigfoot, you get $10 million.
Dude, that's enough reason for us to go out and try to find Bigfoot right there.
Man, so I have a good location that I would like to go to. Maybe I'll tell you off it. No, I'll tell you. You know where Talladega National Forest is in Alabama?
Nope. Is it near Talladega Racetrack?
It's just underneath. Well, so there's a city called Talladega, and Talladega Racetrack is there. So it's a NASCAR track. But I guess there's like a big, huge valley, and that kind of rivers kind of flush into the Talladega National Forest, and it's massive. I mean, if you go look at it on a map, It's super huge, and it's only like maybe 2 hours from us. And the hiking would be amazing, and the camping would be great.
Now you're a NASCAR fan, right?
Yep.
You been to Talladega Racetrack?
Yeah, I've been to Talladega.
Yeah, that's like taking a pilgrimage to Mecca, I guess, right?
Check this out.
What do we got? Oh, we got a race car. Now who's the Sharpie?
This is the 97 car of Kurt Busch. And
Kurt Busch.
I've got, is this one signed? I don't see a signature on it, but I got a few of them signed behind me.
Oh, wow.
And Kurt Busch doesn't drive the 97 anymore. He actually got suspended from NASCAR for a little while. Now he's back.
Kurt Busch. Is he
Yeah.
Jeb and George's cousin?
No. He's from Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah. NASCAR.
I've been
tried
to
to
the
get
Las
into
Vegas
NASCAR.
NASCAR race too.
I tried to watch NASCAR, man, but that endless left turn, I just can't get into it.
It's sort of like,
of course, I've never been there in person.
Yeah, once you start getting into the drivers and the politics behind the driver against the driver, and that's when NASCAR starts being fun. It's not like baseball where you can watch any old team play and be excited.
Yeah,
about
and
it.
I mean, I can't really say it's boring because I love golf.
Yeah, you play
it's like watching paint dry for a lot of people.
You play frisbee golf.
Oh yeah, I play a lot of disc golf, man. Well, I don't play as much as I like to, but I love disc golf. Absolutely, I watch professional disc golf constantly. We may even I say we could do an episode about disc golf, but maybe might not fit in so well.
Nah, you can have one of your favorites on. We'll interview him.
Oh, that'd be great, man.
Yeah,
if I could be so lucky.
Because one day I want to we'll have a raw food show, and you'll have to bear with me on that one.
Raw food. That'd be raw. So, Talladega National Forest. I got it pulled up here on the Google Maps, and that is quite an epic forest. It's actually very long and skinny.
Yeah, you can see it run. It's got to have it's such a huge reserve. It's unbelievable. I'm gonna go look it up too because I've never heard of people going to hike there or like go out in the woods and camp there or anything from here. And it's kind of close. It's not that far away from Atlanta.
The Chattahoochee National Forest in North Georgia is even bigger, though.
Oh, yeah, that goes into Tennessee and North Carolina. But there's a lot of travel up there. You know, a lot of people from Atlanta go up to the
that's true.
Drive through.
Bigfoot, man, he doesn't seem to like be around humans. I mean, every time you see him walking away. He's trying to get the heck out, man. I mean,
hell yeah.
Which shows that he's probably pretty smart. Because if you're smart, you get the heck away from humans. You know?
Yeah.
Because humans are dangerous, man.
When we first landed on North American continent, they probably knew.
Oh, they knew. These guys are a bunch of douchebags right here. Actually, they were probably just out in the open hanging out with the Native Americans, man. But then these douchebags, these conquistadors showed up in their big old boats and their horses and their muskets and such.
Yeah, and that's what the point I was trying to get.
Out.
That's the point I was going to get to with the panda. You know, the panda doesn't like mate a lot, and they don't hang out together. Maybe that's what Bigfoots do. They don't mate a lot, and they don't hang out in family groups.
Yep.
All the time. Maybe they just like wander by themselves.
Yeah, they like to listen to that song by Metallica, like "Wherever I May Roam." They just listen to that constantly, roam around.
Yeah, because we think we're like military forces, and we have to have like 20 or 30,000 people to go and take over a country or whatever. But there's probably not like thousands of Bigfoots out there to like mount an army and take on the people. So they have to hide. If they want to survive, they have to be away from us.
Now, maybe they're kind of like that movie The Predator, where they kind of can apply this almost like invisibility cloak.
Mm-hmm. Harry Potter?
Like maybe Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. I think these things are all suggesting. They're all trying to subtly teach us about the truth of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, maybe Bigfoot isn't as mystical as we think. Maybe, like you said, maybe Bigfoot's a loner. They're nocturnal. Maybe they somehow have the ability to know when they're going to die, and they have this ability to bury themselves.
And why on earth would we take out like hamburgers and hot dogs for Bigfoot to eat? They probably smell that stuff and go, "Oh, gross!" Because they eat like raw everything. Not that I'm not just like promoting the raw foods, but if you think about it, like Bigfoots aren't setting campfires and eating food, so their palate is for like raw deer meat, stomach, ants, bark,
twigs and berries.
Sure, why
not? Yeah, sure.
They're not going to come up to a cooked piece of meat and want to eat it, or peanut butter or whatever, that cannot be enjoyable for them.
Processed human crap.
I know when I'm on like a deep cleanse or something for a couple weeks and I taste anything from a store, it's just the worst thing on the planet. I mean, it's like, I can't believe people eat that, So it's just all about how your palate is.
Sure.
Your taste buds are adjusted to.
Absolutely. What you're acclimated to.
Yeah. So I can imagine that you're going to attract a Bigfoot with the food that we eat.
Well, this guy claims he put some ribs from Walmart up in the trees.
Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't even eat ribs from Walmart, but apparently Bigfoot.
I hate to admit it, I would, but I'm a terrible person.
Yeah, but I mean, God, if I told you what Walmart does to the meat and then puts it in front of your face.
No, I mean, it's a common problem I have, man, where I eat a bunch of food and I get all full and then I feel like sick. And I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Ugh. And I never learn. I just keep doing it. It's terrible. But this isn't the food podcast. This is Bigfoot.
This is not. Oh, by the way, we do have a food podcast. If you want to go listen to that, it's pretty good.
Oh, that's right. Our listeners, go back and to the archives. We don't have archives. That's a hoax. But
yeah,
I'm a hoaxster. Well, technically we do. That's true. And if you're listening to this and it's like the year, I mean, because you may be listening to this in the year 2025. I mean, we don't know. This podcast, man, once they get on the internet, they're going to be out forever. And, this may be you may be listening to like the old archive episodes right here. Back before Dookie and I were, had been voted into office and stuff. I mean, so. Or before we're widely known as, idiots. So, what else do we got? Bigfoot. Come on. Some people are driving to work. They're commuting. They may be jogging on the treadmill.
We had two different TV shows. But the most well-known TV show that I love is Finding Bigfoot on Animal Planet. Have you ever seen that one?
I think I have. Now, I canceled my TV service, but...
Same here.
But it seems like I had TV service, and I remember seeing that, I think.
So you can watch now. It was such a hard show to keep off YouTube that they just kind of succumbed and put up all the full episodes. I think they put some full seasons of episodes on YouTube that you can watch, not in HD or anything. But they do have ads on them and all that stuff. So, but you can go and watch the Finding Bigfoot shows. I got mine on iTunes because I don't have cable either on purpose. Not a cable believer. I'm not an endless mind show kind of person.
And I'm just cheap.
Oh, okay. That's a good reason too.
But, for it. Yeah.
Holy cow! There's a guy that I work with that pays $240 a month for his satellite service. I'm just
dude, he probably thinks it's worth every penny too.
How on earth? I mean, like DVR in every room. They all link together. You pause in one room, it starts in another. It's like these services, they're charging you $50 for each one.
Oh yeah.
Whereas when I was growing up, cable was like $14.50 a month or something, and you got every TV show, every station that was available.
Yeah. Back then, you got all 25 channels.
HBO was like $4 extra a month, and $20 was your total bill for every person on every street in every city in every town.
Of course, back then, making $50,000 a year was like a pretty good salary. Now it's kind of like bare minimum to live in a crappy neighborhood.
What was that movie, The Breakfast Club or whatever? You remember that show? It was like pretty epic when we were kids.
Breakfast Club.
Where they got stuck in detention or something.
Oh yeah, that was a movie, John Hughes movie, absolutely. Yeah, Breakfast Club, sure.
The guy in that movie, there's a guy that's watching the kids, and he's like, "I make $31,000 a year. You can't tell me what to do."
I make $31,000.
He'd been like a teacher for a long time, so that was like the top salary.
Yeah,
back in those days,
Oh sure.
Now a teacher, top salary is like 77,000 or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think starting out is like 32, 35. I probably misspoke. I said $50,000 is like bare minimum to live in a crappy neighborhood. That's not true. I mean, if you're making $30,000 these days, you can get by if you're smart with your money. But I don't know, man. It's just stuff's expensive.
I think 30. I think 35 is probably about the least that you.
But if you got
That's
kids,
probably a living wage. Is about 35.
if you got kids, man, and you got, I mean,
If you want to have any aspirations in life, right? 35,000. I mean, you gotta start there.
yeah.
I know. It was very hard for me to even reach that before I was about 20, 22, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I look back. I mean, some of my old W-2s are just pathetic, and I don't even
Yeah.
make that much now. I mean, you know.
Well, I mean, me and my wife, we were paying like $1,200 a month, and we were making $300 a week each. Like, how did we even do that? I don't even know.
Yeah, half
Like,
your money gone.
like literally half of it, and then we had to pay electricity, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how people live these days,
The
especially
rest
with
just
like
goes on everything else.
no jobs being out. I don't even know how they're built. I was driving out somewhere to I do service during the day, and I was seeing these new apartment buildings going up in every city that I go into, like downtown square areas. I'm like,
Yeah. Even yeah.
if the economy is so bad and like people can't afford it, what are you building for? Like, what are you doing? People can't move into
Yeah.
your places. They don't have money.
Who are these? Who are these people?
And I know that Atlanta ain't growing like that.
What was that? That was an interesting theory you told me about, this idea that there's not 6 or 7 billion people on the planet at all. There's actually closer to like 100 million.
Yeah, I ran
And I've been
across
thinking
this.
about that. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I ran across this theory. I saw it on YouTube. And then I heard a caller call in on a radio show and ask about it. And I was like, yeah, that reminds me about that. I wanted to read more about it. So yeah, and then that very day I told you about it. But so yeah, not the numbers apparently don't match up. The number of people that we assume between 6 and 7 billion is an estimated figure, but some people think that it's overestimated, like it's super overestimated. Like there aren't anywhere near 7 billion people on the planet. That there's only 100 million, maybe in Europe and in America combined.
I mean,
One
100
guy,
million is an awful lot.
it's still a lot. But
Yeah.
I think it's just because people can't wrap their mind around the billion number that theory may have popped out. But
What's a billion? It's 1,000 million.
I mean, if you think
I
about
mean,
Malaysia,
if you saw 100 million people, that's a freaking sea of people. If you saw 7 billion people, that's a sea of people. You're not really going to be able to tell much of a difference.
right? And some guy, but then again, if you're a government worker in like let's say IRS department in the United States, and you see the numbers on paper of all the people that are in the United States, I mean, obviously, maybe you're a top level executive in IRS. I mean, you're going to see all that math and all the money coming in, and you're going to know that there's probably 300 million people out there in the United States. But then again, only half of us pay taxes, so IRS might be a bad example.
Yep.
So maybe we'll look into that and have another show.
We should just go out and do a head count.
There's probably a guy that has this all figured out that we can maybe talk to.
His name is Jesus.
We'll see if we can get that person.
That man's name is Alex Jones. I wonder if Alex Jones listens to our podcast. I bet he doesn't.
I bet he doesn't.
Not yet. Hey, Alex, if you're listening, hi there.
Hey, give me a call. Give me a buzz, buddy.
Hey there, Alex Jones. How you doing, buddy?
He's selling lung cleanses and whatever else he sells now. Super male vitality.
I don't even know what he's into. I
listened to his podcast a couple of weeks ago, and when I first started listening to him, maybe in 2008 or 9, I really loved the show because he would, every once a week or so he would apologize, but I got to fit this ad in. I'm sorry, but I have to do this like once a week just to keep the radio show going. No, okay. Now it's literally ad after ad after ad after ad after ad. And he's working it in. Entire shows he has with the health guru people.
Wow.
and tries to sell, supervillain vitality is such a great mix. I can't believe you. And then they have like 10 minutes of talk, and then they'll go to commercials where they advertise that same product they were just talking about, and then they come back from commercials and they're talking about, being healthy and losing weight. And did you know that lung cleanse really helped me out? It's just like the entire episode.
That stuff really works. I mean, just the other night, it's funny. My wife was watching House of Cards season 3, and dude, it was crazy. They have such product placement in the show. Kevin Spacey, he picks up his iPad and he starts playing this video game, and they zoom in on the screen and you can see the game really clear. And he comments about how this game is really awesome. It's really challenging. And it's just like, what? And then, dude, I look over at my wife like 10 minutes later, and she's already bought the game and she's playing it. And I'm like, what? She's like, oh, yeah, I mean, I already knew about this game, but I forgot about it. But now it's like she had no choice. I mean, she bought it, and it looked really cool. I agree. But it was just blatant. I mean, they didn't say the name of the game in the show, but like it was just so obvious. Now, Alex Jones, though, I bet you he listens to. He seems like the Nickelback type. Once again, it goes back to that.
I think he's a Metallica kind of dude. I think he's actually had the Metallica guy on his show before.
I think he probably once was with Metallica. I mean, there's a fine line between Metallica and Nickelback. I mean, there's definitely a crossover there.
Yeah, true.
As well as Creed.
Oh, Creed.
Now, there's old Metallica is the best Metallica.
I saw Creed a couple times.
Oh, did you?
Remember how famous they were?
Oh, they were, very famous. What was the Scott Stapp?
Yeah.
Who actually just had some, I don't know if you saw, he had some mental issues going on or something. I don't know.
No, it was, he came out on YouTube and said he was in poverty, like he's poor.
He was like crying and stuff.
Yeah. So.
And
then somebody signed him.
Boom.
YouTube works.
Blam. Okay, so let's stay on track here, or try to.
Finding Bigfoot. We were
Yes.
talking about Finding Bigfoot, and that's a really good show. I like it. I bought episodes on iTunes and watched them. I think they're really good.
Cool. I need to check it out.
Again, when we talk about finding or seeing a Bigfoot, even the people that are on the show, like Bobo, he had one sighting in his entire life, but every time they have an episode, somehow there's a knock, and somehow there's a howl, and it's sort of like the show Ghost Hunters on Sci-Fi.
Oh yeah,
like where they have ghost activity every episode, and you're just like,
oh, like crazy.
Maybe out of the 8 seasons, or I don't even know how many seasons they've been on, maybe 9 or 10. You'd have a 1 or 2 that don't have activity, and I think maybe 1 or 2 do not have activity, but that's about it.
I mean, it's pretty boring TV if they don't have activity.
Shoot, could you imagine like filming an entire season and just having like no activity? I mean, you'd get fired right off the air right then.
Yeah, it's kind of more plausible. I mean, I've had a ghost experience once in my life, and I mean, it's just one time in my whole life. So,
and we'll have a ghost show for sure because that's a big topic too.
Of course, granted, I don't go out like with equipment like looking for ghosts, so I'm sure I'd have a little more experiences if I was actively seeking ghosts or spirits or whatever you want to believe it is or isn't.
Yeah, me and the family are into the ghost tours and stuff, but not really ghost hunts.
Yeah, I did one. It was real cheesy. Down in Key West, they gave us these little handheld electro meters or something. And they took us to this old Civil War fort where all these people had died of like malaria or smallpox or something, and it was just so cheesy, but it was fun.
Yeah, something to do at night.
They let us bring beer on the bus, so
Yeah,
it was cool. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to Talladega Forest, me and you. We've already figured this out now.
Talladega and go see some NASCAR.
I think it's all flat land out there, though. I'm not sure what kind of terrain we'd be in, but there's probably some good hiking trails. That's another thing with Bigfoot is that we stay on hiking trails. They don't necessarily stay on trails, and they, they're just masters of the forest. They can just walk through it with no problem. Why would they need a trail? And we're susceptible to like ticks and mosquitoes and all that stuff, and they're not really susceptible. So we need to stay in a cleared path without poison ivy.
Yep.
We get poison ivy if we touch the wrong plant.
Yeah, I get it bad.
I used to. I was in the woods just the other day walking my dogs, and I remember hitting a tree, poison oak, and it rubbed right up against me. I was like, "Oh my god, it's poison oak!" Nothing happened. So
wow,
I don't know.
The other night I went to Joe's Crab Shack and ate like way too much crab legs, and then my lips started getting all swollen, and then my eye got all like inflamed and droopy and like red and watering and itchy, and I was like, "Oh no!" And then I went to sleep. I guess I'm allergic.
You have a shellfish allergy.
Yeah, apparently.
I mean, they all have different variations, like from between a 1 and a 10. So you might be increasing on that scale.
That's the first time I've ever eaten that much crab. I mean, I was so stuffed and I just kept eating it. I felt like sick. I ate so much of it. So, serves me right.
Yeah.
It's really
How's the crab getting back at you?
I mean, crabs are really kind of gross. They just like these insects that feed off poop on the bottom of the ocean,
Yeah, dude.
But they just happen to taste delicious. I mean, it's weird how poop ends up tasting so good.
I flew into Cancun once, and the first thing we did was we went to the restaurant at the place, and I had this plate of seafood. It was like, oh gosh, octopus, and I mean all kinds of eel and all kinds of crazy stuff that you never would get anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll take that. It was like a surf and turf or something.
Oh yeah.
And I like the seafood really, much more than I liked regular meat of any kind.
Tastes good.
And bro, for like 3 days after that, I was just in the room, and it was like a $10,000 a week place. So I was just wasted. I mean, the whole vacation was just like wasted because I was sick. So the only thing I could do was sit on the balcony. And you've been there, I think. The Moon Palace Resort in Cancun.
I didn't go to. No, I stayed in the Playa del Carmen, south. Oh yeah, but it's all the same. I mean, it's funny. As I'm sitting there with like swollen lips and my eyes all driving me crazy. It was just my right eye too. That was the weird thing. I'm almost wondering if maybe I had the juice on my finger and I touched my right eye. I don't know. But I'm sitting there thinking about the book of Leviticus, how it clearly states we're not supposed to eat, shellfish, and thinking, well, maybe there's some truth to this here. Shellfish stuff.
There's a guy that travels the United States and Australia and Europe. What is his book's name? I have to look it up. The name is Paul Neeson, and he's pretty famous actually in the world of the Christians. He has a book. Here's Paul Neeson, healthwatchman.com. But he has a really good book about how the Bible actually tells everyone not to eat any meat, and people just pick and choose what they want. Let's go to his store, rawlife.com, and see what he's got here.
Raw Life.
Well, he's a raw foodist, but I didn't. But before that, here it is. He's got Bible health products. God's Way to Ultimate Health, Health According to the Scriptures is what he wrote.
Okay.
And some of it, I remember when I was working at a corporation that some people were, they were really into going to church and being good Christians and stuff. And I said, well, why don't you go check out this guy who's coming into town? His name's Paul Neeson. He wrote a book called Health According to Scriptures, and they went and saw it. It was a 4-hour lecture. Wow. And when they came out of that, they were just like, nobody's ever given us that perspective before. And, we're going to improve our diet. And a couple of them did pretty
Now,
much go the entire way.
so I don't know if Christians believe in Bigfoot or not, but if they did, then they must believe that he got on the ark.
Hmm. Yeah. So that's probably why they can't believe in any of it, like UFOs or Bigfoot or the Loch Ness monster or anything like that. Because
Yeah, I don't know if they're supposed to believe in it or not. I mean, I went to church for a long time, and it was really never discussed too much.
they're all God's creatures.
That's right.
All right, man. So what else about Bigfoot? I don't have much. That's about all I got. We covered all the TV shows. We covered Howls a little bit. Broken Trees, the T-piece, the big body odor of the Bigfoot body odor.
Oh man, terrible body odor.
Yeah, he needs a little. What do you call it? It's a little spray.
Like I've heard, it's just like disgusting. Like you just be like, oh, that like just terrible smell. Yeah, Harry and the Hendersons, definitely something to check out if you haven't seen it.
Patterson Gimlin film is what you want to watch there.
Yes, absolutely. Look it up on your interweb. Google search.
Gigantopithecus is an entire subject you need to look into. It's scientifically proven to have existed and may still exist. We got, of course, there is some scientific uncertainty of whether he or she do exist. The Bigfoot, Native American legends. We have the footprints. We covered the eyewitness evidence. In fact, I had a let's see. Yeah, we had. No, yeah, we went through the hoaxes. All right, yeah, I think that's all I got here. So, after we've gone through all that, Eon, is Bigfoot real or not real?
Oh man, you have convinced me. Bigfoot is totally real.
That was my reasons.
Yeah, I mean,
Bigfoot.
You convinced me. I mean, if you can't disprove it, it must be real.
Must be.
So by default, Bigfoot is real.
That's a good way to think about it. If you can't disprove it.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of court. If you can't prove it beyond the shadow of a doubt, then you can't be convicted. So if you can't disprove Bigfoot beyond the shadow of a doubt, it must
be
real.
I've seen some ridiculous court cases that convicted people. And there's a lot of people that will say in a court of law they can prove that Bigfoot exists.
Yeah, like, I mean, you're saying that all these people's accounts aren't valid. Well, what is a court of law? I mean, yeah, people are put in jail and killed for what people claim to have seen. So there you go. If you want to be consistent, either A, you have to not put people in jail for other people's testimony, or you have to start accepting people's testimony when telling you about whatever they've spotted to be correct and real. And I have, like I said, I have my own. I have the story that I heard from a guy who was credible. So there you go. I mean,
I saw it on TV.
That's it. That proves it. And you saw it on TV.
I saw it on the interwebs too. It was
so
there.
I mean, between the two of us, I think we've pretty much summed it up that Bigfoot is 100% real. And anyone who says otherwise is clearly an idiot.
I would even say 110% real because,
as well as a Nickelback fan, probably.
I printed out stuff and it's on paper, so it's got to be real,
dude. Yeah, I mean, I've seen this video on YouTube. They stabilized it. You can see it. It's clear.
Now, I suggest that everyone go out and take a look at bfro.net. Look at that map of the sightings. Read some of those sightings. You can literally read what people, turned in as their stories. And a lot of the times when you see those shows like Finding Bigfoot, they pick a lot of the best sightings and they visit those people right on the show from bfro.net. So go check that out. I'm looking at the clusters and where people find. Maybe I'll go camping. Me and Eon this summer. See if we can't find anything. Take our 360 mics.
Get some real good blurry footage.
Yeah. Oh, there was a really good not this last year, 2014, a hunter camera caught a Bigfoot at an apple tree, and he had it at the front of his driveway. So he had his apple tree and a hunting camera at the front of his driveway because he couldn't figure out where his apples were going. And apparently, this he caught a Bigfoot on it. It's really good. But
Let's see.
yeah,
I'm looking at that right now. If you search up Bigfoot apple orchard,
yep.
and you
And
get
it's like a blur. It's like again, it's like half of the body is blurry, and the other half is because I think it might have been moving when the picture was taken.
Man. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
It's black and white because it's at night.
It's just more evidence, people. This is indisputable.
That was a good one. That was one that they visited, and looked like it couldn't have been really easily hoaxed.
I heard that the U.S. government actually contracts Bigfoot to fight ISIS. So, that's something people aren't talking about a lot, but it's totally true.
Dude, it's ISIL. Get it right.
ISIL. Sorry, I've been misled.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, out there fighting, terrorists. So Bigfoot's very pro-America,
He killed them terrorists.
I think Bigfoot probably votes Republican, or at least Libertarian.
No, isn't he like a Star Wars character or something?
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that because there is definitely, Chewbacca is definitely, or not just Chewbacca. I mean, the whole Wookiee.
Yeah, that's Sasquatch. Right
Wookiee
there.
species is total Sasquatch. Somewhat ish. Like, hold on, I gotta get a little something like that.
No, that's not.
I'm sorry, that was terrible. All right, well, I guess that's about it, right? Now, guys, we've been telling you guys every week, and we know you're listening. We've seen your downloads. I mean, we've got tens and tens of downloads every week. We've seen them, and we tell you our email address, cuetheapodcast@gmail.com. We have not gotten an email unless our spam filter is catching it. I don't know, but send us an email. Ask a question. We'd love to read that stuff on the show. Give us suggestions for episode, topics. Maybe if you're knowledgeable on some topic, you could be a guest. We could ask you questions. You could educate us and enlighten us on that topic. We got a Facebook page you can follow.
It's just Q the A.
Q the
A. And then our Twitter is Q the A Podcast. So at Q the A Podcast.
As well as YouTube, our YouTube channel.
We're also on Google Plus at
Q the A Podcast.
Yeah. So we're out there, and we're on YouTube. Q the A Podcast. We're everywhere. Just find us. Come talk to us. Make us feel like we're doing something right.
Yeah, and if you think we're like complete idiots, we want to hear about that. We want to hear everything. Whatever you think. You want to troll us, bring it. Bring it on. And I guess that's about it, right?
Ad-free to entertainment right here.
Ad-free.
Day in and day out.
That's right, for now.
All right. Let's close it down there, Egon.
All right, let's close her down and get her done. So we live in the South, we can say stuff like that.
What can we expect next week? Maybe a little what?
That's secret. We can't reveal that information. I don't know.
We'll surprise you next week. How about that, everyone?
I'm going to just put it out there and let it come to me.
Crop circles?
And, yeah. I mean, crop circles are awesome. I tell you. That would be a cool topic. So maybe we'll do crop circles. I don't know. Hey, listeners, if you want to send us some emails and tell us what you want, maybe we'll follow up on that,
Yeah, man. I'm into that.
See on my hat? Hey. Right there.
Podcast.
So, all right. I guess that's it, right?
Yes.
That was the big Bigfoot episode. What?
Signing
off.
Goodbye.
Operating Phaeton. Later.
Bye.